So on yesterday, one, we checked how and whether an ordered pair works for a linear system. So that's when you plug in X and Y and see if it matches the answer that they gave in the problem. So we did 2 examples of this type of problem. In order for the answer to be yes, it has to work for both equations. No questions asked. So if it works for one and not the other, then the answer is no. So that's what you do for checking to see if a point works. That's actually what you're supposed to do for the IXL that's due tomorrow. When it comes to graphing, there are 3 types of answers you can get. There's one solution if the lines meet. There's infinitely many solutions if the lines coincide. That means you have 2 of the same line. And there's no solution that's if the lines are parallel, which means they will never touch. So those are the 3 types of answers you could get. One of the problems the first problem we did yesterday was with a horizontal and a vertical line. So if you have a horizontal line and a vertical line, they will meet up somewhere. Wherever they meet up, that's your answer. So that's the extent of the notes that we took yesterday. So for those people who have to turn in their notes today to make up for yesterday, your notes will start from example number 2. So yes, that means you need to have what I have plus the graphs. You need to have what I have plus the graphs. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Example 2. So example 2, we're going to do an example now that we have slanted lines. So we're going to have some slanted lines. So if the lines are slanted, that means we're going to have some y equals mx plus b come into this problem. So let's start with y equals negative 4x plus 8. So again, the same rules that we were following in the first semester, in the last 2 units, still apply here. Your slope is the number in front of the x. Your y-intercept is the number behind it. If the slope is not a fraction, you go ahead and make it a fraction. So there's your x-axis, there's your y-axis. Y-intercept goes on the graph first. Go to the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put a dot on 8. Since your slope is negative 4, that means you're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right 1. So when you are drawing these graphs, it is absolutely important that you put as many points as you can and that you draw it as straight as you can. So if you have a ruler at home, use a ruler. Otherwise, take the edge of a book, draw a line, make it as straight as possible. And now let's put the other equation up right. Y equals 2/3 x minus 6. So, what's the slope? What's the slope of that line? Shouldn't be too difficult to figure out. We've done this enough times to know which number is which, so which number is the slope. Oh, we even forgot slope and y-intercept. I gotta put a whole bunch of those on this quiz coming up on Friday. And I gotta find out who got all the A's in this class. But we don't know that the slope is 2/3. So, slope is number in front of x. Y-intercept is -6. So the slope is 2/3, and y-intercept is -6. So we follow the same rules. Go to the y-axis, put your point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Point on -6. Go up 2, to the right 3. Up 2, to the right 3. So, did the line intersect? Did they cross? So, do these lines cross each other? That's going to determine whether or not what kind of answer we have. So, lines cross each other. They meet right there. So we have to identify what is the x value and what is the y value. So that's not difficult, we just count over. So if you start from the middle, it's 1, 2, 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4 going down. That's 3, comma, -4. And that's your answer. So you do not have to write, so don't write exactly one solution. Don't write exactly one solution. If they meet, I want to know where they meet. They cross, tell me where they cross. Questions, example 2. And if you have questions, you got a mouth, open it, and ask the question. Or type it in the chat so that I can see it and ask the question. With a closed mouth, don't get fed. So, any questions on example 2 before we move on? So remember, those of you who didn't turn in your notes yesterday, you are turning in your notes today. So there is no makeup assignment that you're getting. You're turning in your notes today. So if you don't turn in your notes today, you're stuck with the 0. Those of you who are absent, this is your makeup assignment. Those of you who didn't turn it in yesterday, you're turning them in today. After today, you're stuck with that 0. Those of you who turned them in yesterday, you don't have to do it a second time around. You're good. So we'll leave this up here for another 30 seconds, just for those of you who need to finish copying. So example 3 is up here. We have y equals -2x minus 3, and 6x minus 3y equals -15. Hopefully my friends Shire and Clyde and Kamara and Shakaya, hopefully they're over there taking notes, being the great people that they are.
Wait, Mr.
Yes, go.
So, so are we turning notes today if we did the measurement?
You must not have heard what I just said maybe 30 seconds ago. But if you turned them in yesterday, then you don't have to turn them in today. If you didn't turn them in yesterday, then you have to turn them in today. Now, those of you that didn't turn them in yesterday, you're turning them in today, and you're getting 50% credit. You ain't getting full credit. The only people that get full credit are those that were out and out absent yesterday. But let's go on to example 3. So example 3, we have y equals negative 2x minus 3, and 6x minus 3y equals negative 15. So remember, your first step is to put each equation in y equals mx plus b form. So the first equation is already in y equals mx plus b form. What's the slope? We need the slope and we need the y-intercept. Let's see. Everybody quiet, so everybody must know what they're doing, so I can let people work and give this quiz on Thursday. Move this on up. What's the slope of this line? What do I need to call on? See, I'm not necessarily worried about Mir or Wessa because they got a track record. They know that. Let's see, they've demonstrated frequently. I ain't worried about Tyler. He's demonstrated frequently. Not worried about Greg either, because he participates frequently. So I need to know what's the slope of this line. Slope is negative 2. There we go. That ain't that difficult. Put it this way: participating makes the time go by faster. Your slope is negative 2. What's the y-intercept? Negative 3. See, it ain't that hard, ladies and gentlemen. Participating in class makes time go by faster. Go to your y-axis. Put your dot on, your first point goes on negative 3. Your y-intercept always goes on the graph first. Your slope is negative 2. So how am I going to move? You have a negative slope, how do you move? Say that again. Not 2 to the left. So remember, if it's a negative slope, well, first you make it a fraction. So your first movement should either be up or down. So since that's negative, that means we're going down. And then to the right. Down 2 to the right 1. Down 2 to the right 1. Now, if you want to turn it around, instead of going down, you can go up, but that means instead of going to the right, you go to the left. Up 2 to the left 1. Now, when you do your IXL will make the line for you once you have 2 points. If you're doing it by hand, I would put as many points as you possibly can so you can make that line as straight as you possibly can. That's the first equation. What's wrong with the second equation? What's wrong? Yep, it's not in y-intercept form. It's slope-intercept form. So now we got to change it. So we want to get y by itself. We first have to get rid of 6x. So how we get rid of 6x? Add it, subtract it. That minus sign belongs to the 3. So that's a positive 6x, so you're going to subtract it. So the 6x's drop out. You get negative 3y equals negative 6x minus 15. Say that again. Now you divide everything by negative 3. So y equals positive 2x plus 5. So sometimes you're going to have to rewrite the problem. Sometimes you have to rewrite the problem before you can graph it. Any questions before we continue? Notice there were 2 people who participated. They didn't have the right answer. I didn't get mad at them. I told them that's not right, but here's how we do it correctly. Show them how to do it correctly. Again, there's no shame in getting something wrong. You're not perfect. Nor is anyone else going to laugh at you as a result. If they're going to laugh at you, they're going to deal with me. And trust me, they're not ready for that smoke. They ain't ready for these problems. So what did my 7th period class say yesterday? He wouldn't be talking so tough if we were in class. You're right, I'd be talking a lot worse. So you got y equals 2x plus 5. What's the slope? 2. What's the y-intercept? There we go. So y-intercept goes on the graph first. Go to the y-axis, put your dot on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So since your slope is positive 2 over 1, how am I going to move? There you go. 2 to the right 1. Up 2 to the right 1. Since I'm out of space, now I go in the opposite direction. Down 2 to the left 1. Down 2 to the left 1. All right, so get the lines intersect. Get the lines cross. So do these lines cross each other? Yep. So there's where they cross. Now we have to identify what that point is. So now we have to identify what the point is. Go to the middle. We're going to the left 2 and up 1. So that's -2, comma 1. So x is -2 and y is equal to 1. That's it. Problem's over. Put this back in the screen. Questions, example 3. Okay, if you don't have any questions because you know what you're doing and you're good, all right, I ain't got no beef with you. But if you don't know what you're doing and you don't ask questions, then I got beef with you. Not chicken, not steak, I got beef. So make sure you ask the question. So leave this up here for 30 more seconds for those who need to finish writing. So example 4, what we're working on next. Y equals -3/2 x plus 1 versus 3x plus 2y equals 10. So this time for this problem, I'm going to give you a head start. Start solving the problem. Give you a head start to start solving the problem. So you figure 1 minute to graph the first line, 1 minute to rewrite the second one, 1 minute to graph the second line, and then another minute to identify everything. So we're going to give you a 4-minute head start. Let's do this. All right, so when you graph both lines, did they touch each other? Those people who finished, do these lines touch each other? Did those two lines touch each other? If you do it correctly, the answer is no. Those two lines shouldn't touch each other. These two lines shouldn't touch each other. So now let's do example 4. First equation. The slope is -3/2. The y-intercept is +1. Go to the y-axis, put a dot on 1. Go down 1, 2, 3 to the right 2. 1, 2, 3 to the right 2. 1, 2, 3 to the right 2. So there's your first line. There's your first line. So if you got stuck, if there's anywhere that you got confused, that's where we have to be. That's where we have to man up or woman up and just ask the question and make sure that that clarification gets got. There's your first line. Now we're going to do our second line. Before we can graph that, we're going to have to rewrite that. So 3x plus 2y equals 10. I want y by itself. So what do I have to do first? We got some work to do. What has to happen first? Something's got to happen with that 3x. So those drop. So 2y equals negative 3x plus 10. Now the 2 has to go. What are we going to do with that 2? Divide everything by 2. Oops. Get a little ahead of myself. So y equals negative 3 over 2, x plus 5. So your slope is negative 3 over 2. Your y-intercept is 5. Time to graph it. Go to the y-axis. Put a dot on 5. Your slope is negative 3 over 2. Go down 3 to the right 2. Here's your second part. Who was doing the problem and thought they did something wrong? Because they didn't meet. It's okay if you felt that way. This time you're not doing anything wrong. Those lines don't meet. So when we were going through the 3 types, if the lines don't touch, that means they're parallel. And if they're parallel, that means the answer to this problem is no solution. That's no solution. Why? Because the lines don't touch. Lines don't meet. Any questions before we fill in this conclusion? All right, so let me highlight 4 numbers. This, 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 and this. So, what 2 numbers are the same? Which 2 were the same? There are 2 numbers up there that are exactly the same. Your slope. So that means you have the same slope. Those 2 are different. And those are your y-intercepts. So if the lines have the same slope and different y-intercepts, the answer is no solution. So there's your cheat code. That conclusion is a cheat code. If you have the same slope but different y-intercepts, your answer is no solution. You just got to make sure the graph works out. Questions on example 4? So that's example 4. We're going to do one more example together, and then we'll take a look at how this looks in the IXL. So let me pause my recorder again. So if you get the first equation correctly, you need to get y by itself, because it's not by itself. So negative 10x, you should have added. That's negative 2y equals 10x plus 4. Then you got to get rid of the negative 2. Divide by negative 2. So y equals negative 5x minus 2. That means your slope is negative 5, and your y-intercept is negative 2. Go to the y-axis, put your dot on negative 2, and then go down 5 to the right 1. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's your first equation. Second equation. Y is already by itself, so that means you just have to identify the slope and the y-intercept. What do you notice? What do you notice about the slope? And what do you notice about the y-intercept? Everything is the same. Everything matches. So there's no sense in me graphing the same equation twice. You already have it on the graph once. So you have the same everything. You have the same slope. You have the same y-intercept. Basically, you have 2 of the same equation. So when you have 2 of the same equation, that means you have what is called infinitely many solutions. That means as long as it's on the line, it's an answer. As long as it's on the line, it's an answer. That's infinitely many solutions. So as long as it's on that line, it's an answer. Any questions on example 5? Before we take a look at your IXL that goes with graphing. All right, so let's take a look at the IXL that goes with graphing. We'll record this part as well. For those of you who choose to look at the video, we'll have this on there as well. So let us look at the IXL that goes with this particular section. So remember, you are going to ixl.com/sign-in/HOM3wood. Let me put that in the chat just so that you know which site you need to go to. Go anywhere else. If I can't see your score, that means you didn't do it. We're going to sign in here. So the IXL that goes with this lesson is U, number 2. Solve a system of equations by graphing. So here's an example of a problem they're going to ask you to solve out. Solve this system of equations by graphing. First, graph the equations, and then type the solution. So you have 4x plus 3 and 3x plus 2. So you need to do each equation separately. So what you need to do, so I'm going to do 4x plus 3. So you need to press 4x plus 3. So y equals 4x plus 3 has a slope of 4 and a y-intercept of 3. So we need to graph that first. So we click on 4x plus 3, go to the y-axis, put our point at 3. So if you mess up, then just double click it again and it'll take the point off. 1, 2, 3. Now we do the slope. The slope is 4 over 1. So you go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 1. Notice that it did the graph for you. Once you put that second point down, it'll do the rest. So there's the first line. Now we click the other button to do the second line. The second line is y equals 3x plus 2. So your slope is 3, and your y-intercept is 2. Your slope is 3, and your y-intercept is 2. Go to the y-axis. Put your point at 2. We'll take care of that in a second. So you go up 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. So now both lines are graphed. So now you have to look to see where do they meet. You have to look and see where do these lines meet. It looks like they meet right about there. It's like they meet right about there. So you have to identify what that point is. So that's left 1, down 1, so that's -1, -1. So that point is -1, -1. So that means when you scroll down, the solution is, so type in -1, -1. If it's right, it'll give you the good job. If it's not right, that's fine. It will show you what you did wrong. All right, they said it was terrific. You get to move on to the next problem. So that's how your IXL works. You're going to have to graph them each separately, and then type in your answer at the bottom. So again, you're trying to get to an 80. So notice as you go farther, you have y equals 6. So remember, y equals 6 is a horizontal line. Y equals 6 is a horizontal line. So for a horizontal line, you go to the y-axis. Let's graph y equals 6. Go to the y-axis, put your point at 6, and then put a point somewhere else. It can be anywhere else you want so that you can have a horizontal line. So there's your y equals 6 line. For negative x plus 1, negative x means negative 1x. So your slope is negative 1 and your y-intercept is 1. Go to the y-axis, put a point at 1, and then go down 1 and to the right 1. Notice the points meet. So the points meet up right there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Negative 5, comma 6. So it's negative 5, comma 6. So scroll down. Negative 5, comma 6. And we keep it moving. So that's how your IXL works. Remember, you are getting to an 80. 80 gets you full credit. 90 gets you 5 at bonus. 100 gets you 10 bonus. Anything less than 80, you get less than full credit then.